Welcome to the Temple of Geek Podcast. For those of you tuning in for the first time, my name is Monica. I will be your host as we discuss the first three chapters of Doctor Who Flux. Spoiler warning, you may want to make sure that you've been caught up on season 13 of Doctor Who before listening further. The Temple of Geek Podcast has been around since 2012 and is hosted by a variety of geeky people from the Temple of Geek team. Here we discuss and celebrate fandoms and all things geek. To our returning listeners, thank you for tuning in. We really appreciate you being here. With me today are two members of the Temple of Geek team, Maddie and Elizabeth, and friend of the podcast, Taylor. Can you all go around and introduce yourselves to everybody?
Yes. Hi, my name is Taylor Deatherage. I am she, they pronouns. I'm going to say my pronouns. Everyone feel free to do that if you so choose. I like doing that. I am a very long time Whovian at this point. And also sort of just love lots of different nerdy fandoms, and I do work for a convention called Chicago TARDIS, which is a Doctor Who convention in Chicago, and we're about to have our first in-person event in 2 years, so we're excited. It's next weekend. Other than that, I have a nerdy pop culture business, and I just do lots of different things. Cosplay, have fun. That's the biggest motivator in my life, is doing that. So yeah.
And hi, I'm Elizabeth, aka Lady of Time Cosplay, which is mostly what I go by online. I help write some stuff with Temple of Geek, mostly Doctor Who stuff, mostly Big Finish stuff, because I love all the extra stuff that we get out of Doctor Who. I've been watching this show. I started with a Netflix binge of it in 2012 or 2011, and have been hooked ever since, and have gotten in way too deep ever since.
Hi, everyone. I'm Maddie. I am the deputy editor and a lead writer for Temple of Geek. I also host Cosplay Connection. I am a cosplayer, and I have been watching Doctor Who since its reboot in 2005. And I could personally talk about Doctor Who for several hours, which has happened many times. So, yeah, I'm really excited to dive in.
Well, I'm really excited to have you guys here. For those of you that don't know, my name is Monica. I'm the editor-in-chief at Temple of Geek. I do some cosplay. Mainly, I stick to Doctor Who cosplay because I love buying clothes, and Doctor Who cosplay tends to be just going shopping for me. So, anyways, welcome everybody. So let's get into it. We have just kicked off the 13th season of Doctor Who, and this event, they're calling it an event, is Doctor Who Flux. So it's a 6-episode season versus where we usually get at least 12 episodes in like a regular run. So it's much smaller than what we usually get. And it's starting off very differently from others. So overall, first impressions.
I really like it. I was gonna make a joke about, is this like a golden birthday of some kind? 1313. That's what
Right.
what a joke. I don't know how to make a joke about that, but there you go. I think it's like a lucky number thing. I love it. I will say that. I will explain myself. If I go too far into it now, I'll just keep going. But yeah, I think it's just it's incredible. I think this is the thing. I love Jodie as a doctor. I always have since day one. But I think this is like what she was made for. If that makes any sense. This is the stuff that I think a lot of, even the people who are not so nice, I'm going to be charitable and say that way, have been waiting for. So, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think this is going to wind up being my favorite season with 13. Like I've liked the other seasons, but I do love it when there's a big, huge whole story to be had. And I think so far they've done a really good job of like having everything be part of this big story, but also having individual stories within that. Because you get the story of Cabin Vistra, or however you say his name, the Sontarans, and this temple and the timelines and everything. So I really can't wait to see how everything winds up tying together. I was actually rewatching the first episode a little bit earlier today, and we still haven't really gotten an answer on who those old-timey guys are and like what they have a connection to. You know, I mean, we're going to get to learn more about the lady with the weeping angels this week, but I don't know, I'm just really excited, and I can't believe it's like halfway over already.
Yeah. So this is definitely not what I was expecting from this season. I knew that we were getting less episodes, and so it was going to be more cinematic. Which, like Elizabeth was saying, I love that there's one big overarching story. But I am a little bit confused, and I know we'll talk about storyline in a little bit. But I feel like it's so big right now that they only have 3 episodes left to tie things up. So it'll be very interesting to see how all of these different characters and plot lines and loose ends end up coming together.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm kind of on the same page as you, Maddie, as far as like being confused about some things. But I feel like in a way, I'm holding back any kind of judgment until the end of the season. I feel like this season is catering to veteran fans of Doctor Who. I think that if
Yeah.
you are a new person coming into Doctor Who, you will not know what is happening, what is going on, who are these people. You don't even really get an explanation as to who the doctor is in the first episode, because usually like you get some kind of like, even if it's through like a character that's a new character, like a, you know, one-off character that's meeting the doctor for a first time, you get some kind of like introduction. I'm the doctor, I travel in space and time, something like that. But you really don't get too much of that in these first 3 episodes. You just have to kind of know everything that's happening. So I feel like overall, so far, I feel like this is catered to people like us who have been watching the show for a long time and who are invested and are looking for like a big story arc. I don't think that this is probably a good episode to start like a new person in, and it might kind of, you know, if somebody just happened to bond Doctor Who this season on BBC America or wherever, they might probably tune out because it's a lot to know, unless they found something interesting and then they go back and rewatch the whole thing. But that's what I mean. Like, it's something that you really have to go back and rewatch a lot of stuff. And then I noticed that if you did not pay close attention to season 12, there's a lot that you're going to miss. And we've had such a huge delay between now and season 12 because of filming, COVID, and then just we only had a couple specials in between. So, you know, it's definitely worth a rewatch to really appreciate this season. But anyways, so overall impression, so storyline and writing. Let's talk about this like long story arc.
So I was gonna say, I guess this brings up a kind of thought I had, I think after 2, definitely after the 3rd episode, that I was noticing that it gives me like high A Good Man Goes to War vibes. I don't know if that anybody else gets that from it. Yeah.
Especially because she's been so angry about
exactly. And just all the stuff that keeps hitting us, like, because we have, like, as much as we have some weird things that we know are in play, right? We have these questions left over, like you're talking about. And that's the huge theme that was leading up to that storyline with 11, is how I feel like we're gonna get some like crazy revelations or something going on as this wraps up. And yeah, I agree that it is a very, I don't want to say daunting, but maybe that is the word, kind of feeling to have, okay, we only do have these 3 episodes left. What is going to happen with this? And yeah, I just feel like that I haven't gotten a feeling out of this show, this kind of feeling, since A Good Man Goes to War. So that kind of like high intensity is what I'm getting from this entire season so far. So I think overall, very cohesive in the thing that they're trying to do. is I guess what I'm saying. The writing is very cohesive with the feeling that we're like the story, the feeling, the vibe, if I can say that.
Yeah, that's a vibe.
But let me say motif to sound a little bit more academic is I feel like is consistent. So that's a nice a thing that I think, again, like you're saying, veterans appreciate people who have been asking for this out of the show or whatever they're asking, right? This is the thing. I do think that it delivers on that point, but again, definitely high stakes. I definitely feel some high stakes coming for us here. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it definitely
Yeah, for
feels
sure.
good man goes to war. I get that.
Yeah. Yeah, there is a lot going on. And it's not that I've disliked the previous seasons, but it felt like having watched Chris Chibnall's previous big series, most recent big series, which was Broadchurch, he's very much into not telling anybody anything. So I feel like part of the issues that I sometimes had with the previous two seasons was that maybe he wasn't really telling his writers exactly where he was going with everything. Because, like, we got the timeless child hint, like, in the second episode of 13, and then we got nothing else until the previous season. Which I was like, why are you teasing that and not doing anything with it? So I do kind of like, even though it's kind of a bummer not to have more voices in this season, I do kind of like that this is all written by Chris Chibnall because he will just be able to write what he wants and he doesn't, I guess, have to worry about other writers, I guess,
Or
which
filler
is
episodes
maybe
or
not the best
anything
way to
like
work
that.
that. Right, yeah.
Mhm.
Because, yeah, just sometimes it felt like they didn't know exactly where the plot was going to go in some of the episodes, at least like later on, like within their own episode, it was fine, but like later stuff, which is also why I think we didn't, at least in my opinion, we didn't always get like good character development necessarily. But I do like because we've got just one writer and he's not worried about, I mean, for crying out loud, this is the guy who in season 2 of Broadchurch, like, made the guy who played the killer, who was going to go on trial for the murder of Danny in after season 1, stay at a different hotel and wear a wig to and from shooting so that nobody knew he was coming back. So yeah, I really liked the writing so far this season. I think I think I'm even liking Yaz. I didn't like, again, it's not like that I didn't like other things, but I'm definitely liking things more this season. Like, I'm learning more about Yaz, I feel like, too, even, and who she is and what her relationship is like with the doctor and everything, too.
Mhm. Yeah, I feel like you both said everything that I don't really know what else I could add to that. I feel like, having such a big story, and now that Taylor mentioned it, feeling like a good man goes to war, like, you're absolutely right. Like, we have all of these villains, like, who have a grudge against the doctor, like, not maybe not even coming together. They're just using this one event to be like, haha, I can now take on the doctor because she's clearly vulnerable due to this catastrophic whatever it is, and so I also really love the intensity that they're giving Jodie right now. I know we felt it a little bit in season 12 with the Cyberman, when you could feel, her 12 coming out, like the guilt she had over Bill, and how, like, angry she's getting. And I just love to see that difference because in season 11, we had bubbly, happy, 13th Doctor. I'm just figuring out who I am. Let's, we're going to kind of do these fun little, not necessarily fun, but like, their outings and stuff. And then season 12, we got a little more intensity out of her. But I feel like this season, it's very like, I need you to stop talking and trust me because whatever is happening is going to ruin everything forever. And like when she basically told Yaz to shut up, I was like, whoa, like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, And so, like, having her written like this and like feeling that mood, I feel like is really great. And like Taylor was saying earlier, like, Jodie was made for this storyline, and it's going to be so interesting these next 3 episodes.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that scene. I literally yelled at the screen. I'm like, "What's wrong with you, 13? Why are you yelling at me?" I
Like,
was a
did
big
you learn anything?
I was a big fan of the fact that in, Jodie's first season, she was so bubbly and so good-hearted because I felt that in, 12's run, he was going through the whole am I a good man, right? That was like the theme
Mm-hmm.
for 12's run was like, who is he a good person or not? And at the end, he's like, laugh hard, run fast. And he has all these beautiful things to say that he's saying to himself, to this next incarnation of himself. And so I thought that it was so beautiful that Jodie like took those lessons that 12 learned, those bitter, hard truths, and was like almost kind of the opposite, where instead of like telling everybody, shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up, she was like, gold star for you, gold star for you. So I thought
Mm-hmm.
that was like, 2,000 years of a Time Lord's like, story, like character development, right? Like, and
Mm-hmm.
so that's what I loved about Jodie was her bubbliness. But it's funny because now, like you said, like she's kind of reverting back into like some of those instincts where she's frustrated, she clearly doesn't know what's going on, and not knowing is something that the Doctor doesn't like.
Mm-hmm.
So I think as far as like storyline and writing, I'm very interested in who these characters are, and I think they've done a good job of setting up like, keeping us interested, like who's that, who's going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
I like that you pointed out, Elizabeth, about, how they mentioned in the second episode of Jodie's run, the timeless child, but then they did nothing for like ever. And that was very frustrating. And I feel that way with the old timey guy whose name I cannot remember that we're talking about in this season, from the Victoria
Yeah.
era, who was mining the cave. um, I'm not satisfied with him because I've gotten nothing about him. And I know that that satisfaction is coming. I know that it's a few episodes away, but I have had some frustrations of maybe like how the Doctor is feeling, not knowing what's going on. So are we, if they wrote it in a way that we're supposed to be as frustrated as the Doctor, I feel that way because I'm just like, what's happening?
Yes.
Yeah. I
So
know it'll be a lot of fun to, once all the episodes are out, just to like sit down. I'd love to just sit down and watch them all right together, just to see exactly how everything fits together.
and that's the thing. It's
It'll
like,
be fun.
and I trust the writing and the process and everything. It's just like this weight. It probably would have been better served like on Netflix where we could just binge the whole thing, instead of waiting week to week. Because I think sometimes when we're like waiting week to week, we like overthink it instead of just like
Mm-hmm.
enjoying it and getting through it.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go into some cast and characters. Give me your just kind of any kind of thoughts on the new characters that we've seen come in, whether it's acting or the like things about the actual characters, things you like, things you don't like.
I'll say I like Dan better than I thought I was going to. Does that mean? Maybe that's me.
I had the same thought.
Okay.
You're probably not the third or fourth person that said that to me.
Yeah, because I know the actor is fairly well known in the UK. I personally have never seen him in anything else, right?
Mm-mm.
But I didn't. Usually, I'll try to go and like watch something that they've done if I don't know them, because but I didn't this time, and I was like, okay, let's see how this goes, because I have always been a fan of Yaz personally and love her, and 13 is like friends, whatever. And so I say whatever because I'm trying to be canon here, but it's whatever. I think you know what I'm saying.
Yeah,
so
I
there
know
we
what
go.
you're saying.
We
Yeah,
got
it's
you.
a winky face here, but that's good. That's a good thing. And I wasn't sure. Like, I love Tosin and a lot, right? Like, I thought he was an amazing, part of the show. And, it was weird to see that change. And so I was like, you know what? We'll see how this goes. I'm not going to go out of my way to whatever, well, you know, I want to go into this and kind of feel fresh about it, so I don't have any expectations of him on purpose, right? And I do really like him. I'm very stunned. That would, as far as like new characters and all this, I know we have so many moving parts and new people. Everybody else to me is still a moving part almost, right? Like we're talking about, we haven't even seen the full development of some of these other background players yet, or now coming to the forefront players. But for me, Dan is probably the most surprising. Like, I actually don't hate him, so yeah.
I like I said, I had the exact same thought. Like, I didn't think I was gonna dislike him, but I was just kind of like, oh, do we have to add another character to the TARDIS kind of thing? But I'm like, oh, he's delightful. He's funny. He's a sweet guy. I really liked how they introduced him, with him just like, you know, loving history, and especially the history of his own city. And I've really loved how I've loved all the new characters. I've loved how everybody's been introduced, especially this past episode, Belle, because we didn't really know who she was until the very end, and then I was like, oh, you're so cute. Because kind of how everybody's been introduced this season is how I would have liked the three companions who started out to be introduced. Because I feel like because those three came all on at the same time, we never, like, it was hard to get to know them because they had to share screen time immediately. But with this, because, you know, we already knew 13 and Yaz, we got introduced to Dan, and then you get introduced to Vinder, and then everybody kind of comes into the story a little bit at a time. And I've just loved seeing all these characters, and it'll be very interesting to see how everybody interacts as this story continues, especially because, you know, they kind of left Vinder on his own at the end of the last episode. I'm like, probably not for as much as they, you know, were like, oh, this guy from Game of Thrones that he's from, right?
Grey Worm.
He's coming, you know, it was the big surprise for the San Diego Comic-Con panel. I'm like, he's got to be doing some more, especially because I want him and his wife and child, I guess, to be together again. I'm like, this is very sweet.
Yeah, and all the press,
you know,
I billed as part of the main cast.
Yeah, and I loved what was I can't remember the exact quote, but love is not a mission, and she's like, yes, it is. I'm like, this is so cute, especially because you didn't know that she was talking about him until the end of the episode. All the new characters I love, and I can't wait to see more of. Was so excited to see Jo last week. I really hope there's more of her. They did kind of tease. They did kind of tease that there's more of her, because they did a behind the scenes video on YouTube. And at the end, she's like, oh, will you see more of me? She's like, well, I'll be hard to get rid of. And I'm like, please, because I want to see more of the Fugitive Doctor. And I want to see more of the Fugitive Doctor not just kind of being there for exposition. I really want to see her do more than just explain things to 13.
So while we're on
She's
that,
such a cool character.
Before I lose my whole thought on this, so the Fugitive Doctor, if you Google Doctor Who cast, in like everybody comes up, David Tennant, Matt Smith, you know, Jodie, they're all listed as the Fugitive Doctor except for Jodie Whittaker. She's listed as the 13th Doctor.
Huh.
And that's definitely like an SEO thing. Like, who put that in there? Like, where did that come from?
Yeah.
And so when we were doing our, you know, before Doctor Who Flux started, Elizabeth, I think Maddie, you and I, and, you know, Dana and Tiffany, Kristen, a whole bunch of us did a Doctor Who rewatch together on Twitter, and we were tweeting, and I was like, I'm just going to throw in, you know, the Fugitive Doctor episodes and that storyline, because I have a feeling she's going to come back, because why would that be up there? Yeah. You know, so I have a feeling we're going to get some cameos. And I don't want to say that and then be disappointed that we're not going to, but
I know. One thing that I was thinking, because like the vibe that I kind of get is that Russell T Davies might only be doing like the anniversary in one season. And if that's true, I'd really like him to just like do a mini series with the Fugitive Doctor and then let the new showrunner cast 14. But who knows, you know? But I just want more of her, be that on the TV show, or I can't wait for Big Finish to get the rights for this era.
Her own spin-off. It would be weird.
Yeah, she could. Yeah, I know.
Have a spin-off.
I want more of her. She's so cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love, like we were talking about, like going back to Dan. I love him. I will admit, personally, it was a little hard to understand him, so I had to make sure I was watching with subtitles. Um,
Oh,
but that was my only complaint, was just I couldn't understand what he was saying, but I loved him. Like, he was delightful, and then we got to meet his parents, and I was like, I love that we have met a bunch of different companions, like sets of parents, like, and they just felt so lovely, and like they were just gonna like help out their son, like infiltrate a Sontaran ship, like it was no big deal, you know. And I think, that was really fun. And I love the what are the dog creatures called?
The Cavernistas, I think.
Yeah,
Lucari?
those. Yeah,
Because I think
Oh yeah,
Cavanistra is the guy's name.
Name.
I think it's the Lucari
the
is the name of the
Lucari, yeah.
species.
Lucari or
So
something like that.
I
Yeah.
I am digging that species, and I love that they are like the protectors of the human race because they look like dogs, and I just think that is a brilliant idea. I love that. And seeing Joe Martin back, I literally screamed. I had to like pause it because like I was gonna miss something because I was screeching that she was back. um, and so I am hoping that we see more of her, like we all just gushed over. And another character that I really enjoyed in the second episode was Mary Seacole. Is that how you say her name?
hmm
Yeah, I really enjoyed her character. I liked how she was, very, don't come in here and tell me what to do. Like, you need to explain yourself. Like, she wasn't going to take just like the doctor at her word. It was very like, you come into my house, you're going to play by my rules, and then we can talk about what you need to do. And I feel
Yeah.
like not a whole lot of people put the doctor in her place. And so it was kind of like, ooh, Mary, like you go, Mary, like,
Yeah.
um,
She's really
but
cool.
yeah, and so I really liked her a lot. And so yeah, those are the
Yeah.
characters that I enjoyed.
If anybody wants more of Mary Seacole and the Doctor, the 12th Doctor Chronicles, Volume 1 from Big Finish has a story with her in 12, which was really
Oh,
cool.
very
So
cute.
I knew of her
Oh,
before because of that, and I'm like, oh, yes, more of her.
that's
Yes.
cool.
She's really cool. Yeah.
That's awesome. I think that because we were all talking about Dan. Dan seems funny and like optimistic and heartwarming. I think that there was a couple times where I don't know why, but I compared him to Bill a lot, but not as like they're the same. It's just like they're very different. So like when we meet Bill and she's in the TARDIS for the first time and it moves in time and space, she's very like, what is happening? She has to run into a restroom and wash her face and she's freaking out. And I think Bill was a really good representation of what would have happened if like Doctor Who was real, right? People wouldn't have taken it so lightly. Mickey, for example, with Rose, like he eventually understood and was able to deal with the whole time travel and everything like that, but he reacted like a real person, like freaking out and panicking, and this is like all scary. Whereas Dan was just like, oh, okay, I've been kidnapped. Oh, okay, I'm in space. Like, oh, okay, like everything happened so fast with Dan and he didn't even flinch, which I guess is cool. But like, even Rose on her first outing, was like, what's happening? What's going on? Tell me this. But Dan has just kind of like rolled with every punch and has been like, okay, okay,
I know.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
So
I know
that's
the line that he had. Sorry, the line that he has in the first episode where he's like, "Oh, I think a mate of mine has one of these and it's bigger." I'm like, is this a hint or is this a joke? Because you can never tell with Doctor Who if this is foreshadowing or just a throwaway line.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I feel like maybe something else is going on with Dan, or maybe it was just because we had the condensed episodes that we had to just fit him in. Like, had we had a regular season with him, because obviously we're getting this condensed episode because of the pandemic and filming issues and things like that. So had we gotten a full season, maybe we'd gotten like a full episode where he's processing everything. But I feel like Dan isn't processing anything. Things are just happening to Dan. And he's just like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, okay, okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Those were my only real thoughts on Dan. I really am enjoying Vinder. And so the second episode was or was it the third episode, was really satisfying for me because you get to see Vinder's backstory and who he is.
Mhm.
Like, and also I'm a fan of Thadia Graham, who plays Belle. She was in The Irregulars, the Netflix series, and she was wonderful in that. And so it was nice to see her on Doctor Who and then to be attached to Vinder. So I noticed I like once I get to know the characters, I'm like, oh yes, I like them. Like I like the second episode because we finally got to know something about Dan, right? He had his parents and he
Mhm.
learned a little bit more. So I found those episodes more satisfying, just learning about the characters and stuff. So I'm still very confused on Swarm and Azure. Like, obviously they're like bad guys from 13's like days with the division. And so we find out about the division in season 12 from,
Mhm.
when they come after the Fugitive Doctor, Joe Martin. So like, okay, but I'm still very confused. It's like, why did they wipe her brain? I feel like there's so many storylines happening all at once, and all these characters
Yeah.
are being thrown at me all at once, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on. We still don't know what's going on with the Victorian old timey wimey. I'm really interested in the Weeping Angel storyline.
Yes.
Claire,
Yes.
is that her name? The one that like
Mhm.
bumps into the doctor
Yes.
in the beginning. She was like, "Oh, I didn't know
Mhm.
you'd be here." I was like, "Who are you? Wow, you know who the doctor is?" Like, I
Yeah.
like that Vinder knew what a TARDIS was.
Yeah.
That made
Mhm.
sense to me because he was like from the future or out in space, like all that kind of makes
Mhm.
sense to me that people would know what a TARDIS was, or that he's fascinated by one, that he's like, let me drive it. So
Mhm.
like, yeah, like I like that. I'm excited to find out more about like all of that. I just wish we could have had more time with a lot of these characters because I think these characters seem very cool, and I just
Mhm.
wanted a little bit more.
I feel like we're not going to know what Swarm and Azure's deal is until the very last episode.
Yeah.
'Cause something
Mhm.
is weird there. I don't
Right,
know.
and then they
We'll
don't
see.
really explain like so the sister was on Earth, but she was like chameleoned as a
Yeah.
human, but then she didn't
Yes.
want
Yeah.
to go, and then her companion, I guess, was like vaporized, and like who was sending the alerts? Like I don't understand. Like what is
Yeah.
happening?
Yeah.
Like
No.
that was like a
Yeah.
whole thing, and then they never went back to it. So
Mm-mm.
I don't know.
But again,
Yeah.
I think it's all timing. I think like you're saying, if we
Yeah.
had 12 full episodes of this,
Mhm.
then we would have gotten things explained a little bit, or things are going to get explained at the end, like Elizabeth was
Yeah.
saying, where we'll finally
Yeah.
figure out who the swarm is and what they have to do with the Fugitive Doctor.
Which is why I
Yeah,
don't
I'll
want to
say
judge
that
it.
I think it's been so long since we had an arc like this that we
Mhm.
forget. Like, I've been thinking about
Yeah.
when you were talking about, like, remember when Jacket Doctor was a thing? And people were like, there's something up with this because Matt Smith, you
Oh,
can
yeah,
tell
yeah.
he's not wearing a jacket. And then, like, everyone was like on LiveJournal and Tumblr, like, look, screenshots. He's not wearing a jacket. He's wearing a jacket here. And they were right. And I remember reading this being like, these people are out of their minds. There's no way this is an arc. And then it was. And then that was the whole thing at the end of the season. And I was like, whoa, you are all so good at this. Like, great, right? Because I'll theorize about the little bits all day, but like that stuff, like the Jacket Doctor thing, that was ridiculous.
Wait,
like
what is
everyone.
the Jacket Doctor thing?
So that was from the first Matt Smith series when the crack, so like the crack, right? Like the crack in time with Amy, that setting up of the whole story that ends up coming when the Pandorica opens and all that stuff, right? There was a theory, like maybe starting in the Weeping Angel episodes, right? Where she's blind, right? She can't see. And he comes up to her after leaving, right? He leaves.
Yes.
He comes back. He's not wearing the jacket anymore because he took the jacket off at the end, right? Like in the future. But at the time,
Oh, yeah, because
we
the
didn't know
angels
that.
grabbed his jacket.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So we don't know that yet, though. And when that aired, people started theorizing that him without a jacket was not the same Doctor as the Doctor with the jacket, which ended up being true.
Yeah, because
at the
he
end,
came back,
like all together.
and he was
So
Wow.
this makes me think of that. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
Like, again, high 11 vibes here. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Just
Mhm.
high for me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I definitely think one of the reasons why I've liked this season so much is because it has felt a bit like a Moffat series too. Because there's a lot of like little bits and pieces and time and weird time stuff, and I think this last episode has definitely been my favorite of the bunch so far because there's all those weird timeline things, and that's one of my favorite parts about Doctor Who for sure.
Mhm.
And there's also, because we've been talking about this, you said it reminded you of Demon's Run, A Good Man Goes to War. And in that one, later on we find out, I think it's like an episode, like a season later, that it was like the church who created the silence, who is going back to stop the Doctor from creating like the crack in time and all this kind of stuff. So I'm wondering if like there was that woman that came out of nowhere this last episode. We don't know who she is, but she happens to know that the flux was not a natural occurring thing, that the flux was, made to fight the Doctor. And so like I feel like, okay, is this like how the silence were as well? Like, is it so there's not a bad guy?
Yeah.
There's just like people out there trying to stop the Doctor from making a mess of time?
That's a good
Interesting.
Yeah, I like that
Oh,
theory.
God.
Yeah.
So I don't
Yeah.
know, because I'm like, where did she come from? You know that the flux is not a thing, and she says that, oh, it's to fight you, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because like part of like towards the end of 11's run, he, they talked a little bit in Angels Take Manhattan about how he, went around and erased himself from different databases in the universe, and then 12 kind of was on Earth for 70 years or whatever, but the Doctor's starting to gain a reputation again. So yeah, maybe they're going after the Doctor again. So
and then who is this,
Interesting.
like, the Swarm and Azor, they were captured by the Doctor when the Doctor was in the division. So we still haven't gotten an answer as to why the Doctor's mind was wiped and why she doesn't remember other incarnations of herself.
Mhm.
the Time Lords being Time Lords, I wouldn't be surprised if it was just because
they're just messy people, messy beings.
They
They're
are.
messy. Oh no.
Especially when you listen to some of the audios, like, oh my goodness, like
The Time Lords, though.
Oh, especially Rassilon. I just like the first time I watched End of Time after listening to the Time War Gallifrey series, I was just like, I hate you even more now. Go away.
They're not great.
Oh,
And so I guess I want to ask you guys too about, Yaz on her hand had that like, what would the Doctor do? And, eventually they end up like briefly talking about it. But I think some of us were discussing, Elizabeth, Maddie, I don't know if it was us or I was in this discussion with somebody about that being a very Clara thing, trying to be.
It wasn't me, but yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
And so that being scary, and also like, the closer they get to being like more like the Doctor, the chances of them like not making
Surviving.
it.
Yeah, I was I had that same thought. I was like, okay, Yaz is totally acting doctorish. I was like, where have we seen this before? And I'm hoping, like Monica was saying, we don't want to judge the rest of the series because we honestly have no idea what's coming. We can theorize all day long, but in the past, this didn't look so good for the companions when they started spewing Doctor-esque, you know what I mean? Like once they started sounding like the Doctor and being able to like push the right buttons on the TARDIS. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
Like the only thing that I'm like, maybe she'll be okay is because the Doctor Who social media made a big deal of like, oh, it's Jodie and Mandip's last day of filming, and I'm like, hopefully everybody will be okay, but like Amy was there for 11's regeneration. I'm just like, but yeah, I am a little worried about that. But
well, it's interesting that they didn't say it was Dan's last day of filming. So is he
I am a little.
Yeah,
Because
Yeah.
they
I'm
were very big
assuming-
on that's a wrap on Mandip and you know,
Yeah.
and Jodie.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that they'll carry him over. And I thought that from day one. Because they all this is not a hard and fast thing, but usually it does better when you have somebody they've already been with
Dabbled.
going to the next doctor, right? We all know that. That's a thing that happens. So I always assumed that he would stay on no matter what, regardless of what happens with Mandip. I thought they would keep him for whatever they're doing after. What is it? It's not the centennial. It's called something else, right? Can someone help me with that? Because I don't.
Oh, yeah, the BBC's anniversary or something. Yeah.
Something. Yeah, but it's not.
Something. I forget what.
Yeah, I always want to say centennial, but it's not. It's cent something because it is like their 100 years of broadcast anniversary. But that's next year. That's the one next year. So
well, I do think that when they posted that was wrapped, I think that is a wrap on the era, because I did see something on Twitter today that they started taking her TARDIS apart today. I was like, oh.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure they've already gone into filming like the regeneration and you know, if she comes back for the 60th, maybe cameos, whatever, we don't know. But as far as like Jodie's era, it's done, it's filmed, it's wrapped.
Yeah.
And then I guess we'll get her regeneration in the fall. So we won't see it now, and we won't see it in the new year. We'll see it next fall.
Yeah, because there's the New Year's special, and then I think something in the spring, and then the BBC anniversary thing.
Yeah, the anniversary thing is the regeneration.
Is it?
They're doing it. Yes.
Yeah.
Because oh no, I'm sorry. 2023 is the 60th. Then.
60th. Yeah.
Okay.
And we have no idea. We just know Russell T Davies. That's all we know right now. Yeah.
Which probably means everybody will be in it.
Right.
That would be so great. Bring 9 back too. I know he said he wouldn't come back to the BBC, but if Russell.
I mean, he came back to Big Finish, so you never know.
He did. He did.
They've had some good stories with him. I feel like him and the Brigadier are going to make me cry, but we'll see.
Yeah. Oh, and here's the official from the BBC. It says, Chris is currently writing and producing 13th Doctor, Doctor Who, which will consist of 6 episodes. It will be followed by 3 specials, the first of which will be on New Year's Day, with one later in the spring, and Jodie's final feature-length special, where the 13th Doctor will regenerate, will transmit in autumn 2022 as part of the BBC's centenary celebrations.
That's it.
Okay.
Centenary. There's the word. There's the...
Okay. So then we have 6 more episodes with Jodie.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, we have some time. There is time. I mean, obviously we're probably going to find out who 14 is sooner than later.
Yeah.
But
I just hope that she can get through. I just want to get through the next 3 episodes, maybe even the New Year's special before we find out, because it was kind of a bummer that we found out. Like, I understood that they had to because of filming and everything, but I wish that they could have waited to announce Jodie until 12's, at least last season, had finished airing, but it's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just glad that they announced it right before Comic-Con, because I had time to get
Well, I was literally, because they announced it D23 weekend, I was sitting waiting to go on the floor in my Belle costume, sitting there watching Twitter, and then it was fun because then I got in line to jump in the money bin because they were promoting DuckTales that year. And of course, I'm in the line for the DuckTales money bin. David Tennant's voicing Scrooge McDuck. Bunch of Whovians in line. We were all like, "Did you see? Did you see? Did you see?" Oh.
That's so funny. I ran into
that. I remember that day because I was like doing. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. You're good.
No, I was going to say, I remember that day because I was doing like a 1-day event somewhere. Like it was like a small con that was local, and people just like out of nowhere everyone, like, I have like the alerts for Doctor Who's Twitter on my phone, so I saw it because I saw the video, right, like the reveal, which was great. And then I got so many messages that day from people being like, Taylor, did you see? This is so exciting. I can't believe it. It's probably like one of the best days. That sounds really cheesy, but like, just like, so, like, I will never forget where I was when I found that out. And I think I was like parking a car, like literally parking in a parking lot. And I had to stop what I was doing and be like, oh my God. And I was like freaking out. Yeah.
Taylor, you and I did a whole episode on the Temple of Geek podcast on this, where we were talking about our reactions, and we talked about, like, you know, the first episode of 13's run. And I remember we talked about how I was very anti the Doctor being a woman until I saw Jodie in that little trailer, and I was like, oh, I didn't know that I needed the Doctor to be a woman. Like, I was so wrong. Like, I just wanted things to stay the same. And the minute they changed, I'm like, I didn't know I needed this in my life. This is like perfect. And I literally ran to the closet to find a jacket that looked just like Jodie's. And I was like, and I went to San Diego Comic-Con and I remember when they showed her original, like, her outfit in the trailers, in the posters, what they showed what Jodie's actual outfit was going to look like. And it was before the season aired, and it was the day of the Doctor Who panel, and I was like, I'm just going to go by the Her Universe booth just to look at the thing. But I thought her outfit was ridiculous. And then I saw it on the booth, and I was like, I'll take the whole thing. Like, I was like, I'll take everything. I was like, whatever. And then I tried it on at the Her Universe booth, and I was like, I'm just going to wear it out. Like, I'm good. And I was like, I was so wrong on so many things. Like, I was making fun of Jodie's outfit, and then here I am in full garb, just wearing it and loving it. Like, loving it. And then, like, you know, here I was, I don't want a girl doctor. Like,
I have yet to feel as cool as I felt in going to New York Comic-Con, walking down the street in the 13th Doctor costume. I'm like, I feel really cool right now. Even though it's some ridiculous colors, I'm like, this is really cool. I'm like, I see why the long coat is a choice. I feel really, really awesome right now.
All right. So give me your kind of like hopes, predictions. Where do you think this season is going to go?
I really love Jo Martin. I didn't say that before, but like, oh my God, I love her so much. I want more of her. I think we're going to get her for the anniversary special. I'll tell you that. For sure. Because I can't imagine they'll leave her out of that. But would love, you know, so much more with Jo Martin. So that's on my wish list. I hope that we get some answers about the Timeless Child situation, because good or bad, I really don't care at this point. Just tell us something. No, I'm just kidding. Because I will tell you, as much of like, I love Doctor Who so much, I'm not one of those people, I guess, that like hates choices in television unless they're like really, really awful, right? And I felt like I was very much on the outside of people reacting poorly to that storyline when it was introduced. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like I didn't understand where it came from. I definitely understood like the context of it, the old, you know, classic Who framing around it, knew all that. Just personally, I don't have a problem with them exploring that, because stuff does get explored in television and media. And when you have a series that's been on TV for this long, they're not going to not dig into that. You know, I don't know why you wouldn't explore some of the things going back to the roots of a show. So I hope we get some more development on that. I'm sure we will. I can't imagine we won't. And what else? Yaz to survive.
Yes. Please.
I was like, what else? And I just want Jodie to have a really good rest of her run because she deserves it. And I really love what they've done with her. And I do think there's been a lot of growth as we've been talking about. Like, she has shown different facets of the 13th Doctor well, in my opinion, throughout this time, regardless of how the writing was, regardless of how the background situations that were going on in the series, right? The previous series. I think this is a really good, if this continues on the same path that I feel like it could, I feel like this is going to be an excellent way to start wrapping up her storyline, and that's all I can hope for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, same thing where I want more answers to things. Kind of the same thing too. I had the same thing where I saw people reacting so negatively to that, and I'm like, well, we hardly know anything about it right now. How can you judge if this is a good addition or not to this Doctor story? I'm like, just wait, let's see what more we learn. Like I said before, I really hope we get more of the Fugitive Doctor. This is just me being way too deep into the extra Doctor Who stuff. But I'm really interested to see who that lady was that was telling the Doctor about the Flux. Of course, my big Finnish brain's first thought was like, is that Brax, who is the Doctor's brother? And I'm like, it won't be Brax. They're not going to do that. But I'm interested to see who that is. I'm really hoping it's not the Doctor's like adoptive mother trying to redeem herself, because I didn't like her. I'm like, the whole point was that she was an awful person and exploited this child kind of thing. I'm like, well, but because I like those like little niche characters, I'm very interested to see who that is. I can't wait for the Weeping Angel episode. That looks really, really cool.
Yes.
I do wonder if maybe they'll do like a little tiny tie-in to the Weeping Angel mobile game that came out earlier this year, because of how, the angel comes through Yaz's phone, and depending on how you play the game, you do get a little bit of a cutscene at the end with the Doctor, because the mobile game is essentially like a sequel to Blink in a way. And I'm really, really hoping that we'll see Unit before Chris Chibnall is done, because he's the one who introduced us to Kate Stewart, and I would like them to be more than just sorry, the funding got cut because of Brexit joke. Kate is a really cool character. I mean, again, because I listen to the Big Finish stuff, and Big Finish does a Unit series, which I haven't listened to a lot of, but the ones that I have listened to, she's really cool. And I would love to see Osgood again, if they could somehow maybe bring in some of the other characters from the Big Finish Unit stuff. Like actually one of the actors in the last season plays a Unit operative, and I was like, but the entire time I was like, it's not going to be him, but he uses the same voice, and I'm just sitting there, I'm like, it's the guy from Unit. But yeah, I'm really excited to see what more they do. But in addition, because I know they've only got maybe 3 episodes left in the Flux storyline, I'm not entirely convinced it's going to be contained to just these 6 episodes. I feel like it'll probably at least continue into the New Year's special. Potentially, or at least some parts of it I feel like will continue into the specials. But me being such a big Finish and the books and the comics fan, I can't wait to see what other stories come about from this era of the show, especially Jo Martin's Doctor.
Yeah, I really do hope that we see more of her as these next 3 chapters come to us. And again, I'm really thrilled to see how they do the Weeping Angels episode. I did screech a little bit. Again, there was a lot of screaming from me this season. So maybe because I'm just excited that it's back. I don't know. But my poor kid was terrified of the Weeping Angel. Which, I mean, that you're supposed to be afraid of it. And so he left the room when the Weeping Angel like came out of the video game, and Yaz like smashes the box, right? And so, well done on the writing and the design of the Weeping Angel, because that's what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to be scary. And I personally, whenever people ask me what's my favorite monster, it's the Weeping Angels, because they're so scary. But anyway, so I'm hoping that we get kind of a wrap up of where this flux is coming from. Like if it is coming from someone, that we figure out the source. But I have a feeling the aftermath is going to carry over into the New Year's special. I feel like we might get oh, hey, you're the one responsible, and then that's it. Like they stop it, or they figure out a way to, stop it from happening, and they find the person responsible, and then the person responsible like gets away or something. Like I could kind of see that playing out, so that way it kind of goes into the New Year's special. At least that's what I think would be really cool, but I am not the writer. So whatever the writers, whatever Chris has planned, I'm sure will be wonderful. I try not to make these predictions, but since you asked, that's just kind of what I'm thinking.
My one like tiny little thing is like, I just have a feeling that the master's going to show up at the end and be like, no, I'm the doctor's biggest enemy. Go away to Flux and Azure. He's going to be like, no, leave. I want more Sacha Dhawan's master. He's so much fun. Yes. I didn't think anybody was ever going to be able to replace Missy for me, but he is so much fun. I love him.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really interested in like the Weeping Angels episode next, because I feel like my prediction, which I'll probably be super wrong about, but I feel like the Weeping Angels, we're going to get an origin story for them, because the Moris being time locked, standing still like statues in that temple, gave me Weeping Angel vibes. And then they're like in the time vortex. The Weeping Angels feed off time or temporal time and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, so are they connected? Like, why does the angel have the phone box now? Because it doesn't look like she's going after them. It looks like she needs the TARDIS for something, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So like, I know. Thing she's like,
again, this.
I don't know.
My.
Yeah, again,
just mind like, oh, you're so right. Like the Weeping Angel did not go after them.
Wrong. Don't say that.
Well, okay, yeah. I meant talking about driving the TARDIS. That part, like, you're so right. Like the angels are usually going after the people, right? To send them back in time or whatever. Yeah. But in this case, the angel hijacked the TARDIS.
And maybe because the TARDIS is time, right? Like it's time and space or whatever. So maybe she needs it for that, whatever. The flux is coming and they have no more food source, whatever. But I feel like the Weeping Angels are invested in a different way, which is why I was getting like those Silence vibes. Like the Silence technically weren't bad guys, but they were like,
Yeah.
And then even the Doctor at some points is the bad guy to other people. So like it's all very like gray area, timey-wimey,
Yeah, because this is the way my brain works, but when you said origin story for the Weeping Angels, I immediately thought about how in the end of time, even Rassilon says like the Weeping Angels of old. So like Rassilon, who's this like founder of Time Lord Society, is even saying these guys have been around for a while. So
interesting.
Yeah, that'd be really interesting. I can't wait for this episode.
Like
it's gonna be
fun. Like the Swarm and Azure, if they're these people that have been around for that long, then they've dealt with the Weeping Angels, and it feels pretty heavy handed on the Weeping Angel part this series. So I don't know. I have a feeling that we're gonna see an origin story for the Weeping Angels that might be something like how the Silence were. My other predictions, and not so much predictions, but hopes, are that Yaz does not die. Do not hurt another companion. I hope she goes the Martha Jones route, or even like Clara, but not tragic. Like, okay, maybe she goes off on her own adventures because she was a detective. She was trying to do big things. I would like to see her go to UNIT.
Yeah, for sure. That'd be fun.
That kind of thing.
That'd be awesome.
Yaz is meant for more, and I think that, she should kind of go that Martha Jones route, saving the world from home. I know that Ryan and Graham are gone, and that's the end of them. But they have psychic paper, you know? Like,
They do.
They do.
why aren't they out? You know, like, I want to see a spin-off of Graham and Ryan.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, guys. I know this has nothing to do with Flux, okay? But, like, I still haven't gotten off of
They're so
that.
much fun. They're such sweet characters. Yeah, I
I
know
want to
it.
see them just out
I
there.
hope we get at least like a little scene with them before 13 regenerates, because
I feel like they would do something with that. They'd do a little goodbye or something, like they've
yeah.
done with all other companions of other doctors in the past. I think at this
Yeah.
point that's kind of like a tradition,
Mhm.
and I don't think even this situation they would shirk that. And it's so obvious to do it as well, because it's not like she's had so many companions either. So it's not as much of a chore as it could be,
It's not like
Mhm.
10 who had like 5
in
billion
a
people. I feel
realistic.
like 10 had everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He had a full heart. So, anyways, those are my big things. Don't kill Yaz. Show me what's up with the Weeping Angels, and give Jodie some love, man. That's what I want. It's not a
She
prediction.
needs a hug.
She does. Especially after that last episode. I'm like, no, let Yaz like check on you. Come on, you just had some trauma there all over again. Let's be nice to our friends and accept their help.
Yeah, absolutely. So, any last thoughts before we sign off?
I just can't wait to see what else there is. I really can't.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see how this ends up, and also just what the future is going to be like, because we have so many big things coming up. We have this wrapping up, which I do think it just feels like something very big. I think the end last 3 episodes I guess technically they are episodes, even though they're very long. Pieces of Jodie's, specials are going to probably also be this kind of weight, because they are just kind of throwing it all in, which is amazing. And I'm interested to see who they're going to cast for 14, or who it is, because I feel like they probably have already known. They probably already know, or they're close to knowing at this point, who it's going to be. How the 60th is going to go. How the
Centenary.
Yeah, I keep thinking if your mnemonic here is it's centennial and anniversary together. So that I think that's where that's the word. um how that ends up as well. So yeah, I think there's just so many big things coming up, and that's amazing. I'm happy for that.
All right. Well, if you guys want to go ahead and sign off by telling people where they can find you on social media.
Yes, you can find me at They Seek Her There on Instagram and on TikTok. And I have a nerdy pop culture business that I sell stuff. That's at Logan Arch Chicago. And you can find that also on Instagram and TikTok.
Shop small business.
Yay.
You can find me Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok as Lady of Time Cosplay. Most of the time that's shortened to at LOT Cosplay. Mostly I post on Twitter, and mostly it's me just having random thoughts about Doctor Who or other shows, because I recently got into Miraculous Ladybug, and even that has Doctor Who references, believe it or not. But yeah, so you can find me there. TikTok is a lot of me. I haven't had a chance to get into costume and do cosplay TikToks, but I do like doing a lot of Big Finish stuff on TikTok. So if you're ever interested in just getting a little sneak peek to some of the Big Finish stories, because there's some really good ones out there.
You can find me on Instagram and TikTok at Maddie_Hoovian. And you can find me on Twitter at Mad_Hoovian. Maddie Hoovian was taken on Twitter, so I couldn't change it to match everything else. So so those are the three main social medias that I use.
And you can find me on This Dorky Nerd on Instagram and on Twitter. And as far as TikTok and everything else, you can just go to @templeofgeek.com or the Temple of Geek TikTok, Tumblr, Pinterest. I mean, we're everywhere on social media as Temple of Geek. But all right, this is going to wrap up this episode of the Temple of Geek podcast. We want to thank everyone who tuned in today, and I want to especially thank our guests Taylor, Elizabeth, and Maddie for being here with us today. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to hit us up on Facebook or Twitter using the handle @Temple of Geek. If you want to check out some of our other episodes or shows, why don't you head on over to templeofgeek.com. There you will find all sorts of content that pertains to the world of geek.
Please follow us on Twitter @Temple of Geek. Follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/Temple of Geek. And remember to visit templeofgeek.com, your one stop for all things geek.
Goodbye.
This will conclude our transmission.